Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today it's Maiden Day for the Freewing Rebel V2. If you've been following along with the channel, you know that I recently received a 70mm EDF from Bitco Hobby for review, and this is the airplane I chose to put it in. I picked this plane because it didn't come with an EDF unit or any electronics. It just had the retract, so it was a perfect fit. Build time on this plane took me probably about 4 hours. I would suggest that this is not an airplane for a beginner builder, but it's not exactly advanced either. There were just a lot of little details to take care of. One of the big issues that I had, and I'll put some pictures in overlay and post-production, was that the servo mounting plastic dishes weren't standard size, so I had to get in and trim all 4 of those for the flaps and the aileron. That was probably the biggest task. And then I had to do a little bit of carving to fit the EDF because, of course, I don't know what Freewing's dimensions were on their thrust unit, but I had to get in there and just kind of do a little bit of work carving out some space for the EDF that I got from Bitco. And then the other thing that I had to do before I was able to get it ready to fly was balancing. I'm using a 2200 4-cell pack on this plane, and to get it to balance halfway between, I think the balance mark is 90 to 100 millimeters. To get it to balance on that mark, I had to add 1.5 ounces of weight, and I put mine under the nose cone. So before I glued the nose cone on, I hogged out some of the foam that was here, and I put my weight right there on the nose. And after I glued the nose cone on, I thought it needed just a little bit more, so I glued another 1/4 ounce right there in the nose wheel compartment underneath. This one took 6 1/4 ounce pieces of lead to get it to balance with a 2200, and that's halfway. So the balance marks were 90 to, I think it's 90 to 100, so my balance point right there is at 95. Well, that's a pretty bad angle, but anyway, it's 95 millimeters. That's where I balanced it. Other than that, the build was relatively uneventful. One thing that I'll say is the plywood that they used. I had some issues with that. I had to, in several cases, take the plywood out and glue it. The other thing that was a little bit challenging, and I kind of wish they would have just left it unglued, was the Esc Mounting Plate. They glue it into the airframe, but the problem is it's way down in the fuselage in here. So you have to, if you want, it's easy enough to get some Velcro on there, but because it's right in front of the EDF, I wanted a zip tie on mine, and the only way I could make that work was to pull the board out, drill a couple holes, put a zip tie in, and then glue it all back together. So it would have been nice if they would have just left that out. That's just one of those things, I guess. But that's it for the build. It was relatively easy. Again, if you're not accustomed to building planes, this wouldn't be a great one to start with. Intermediate or anyone who's got any experience building them won't have too much of a problem finishing this off. I guess the last point I'd make is that the wiring, there's a lot of wires converging again in a real tight spot right where that wing, right where the wing meets the fuselage. A lot of wires meet right there, and getting them all tucked in, it just takes some time. It just takes some time. But anyway, I'm by myself in terms of camera work today, so it's going to be the old-fashioned GoPro and mic, and I hope to get some pretty good footage with that. That's how I used to do all the videos. So it'll just be the GoPro today and the microphone. Let's get her up in the air and see how it does. All right, you guys know the drill. Before I Maiden, I like to do the obligatory final safety check. So I'm going to call out my control surface position, and then so I'm going to call out the control surface position before I activate it, and then I'll activate it and make sure that it matches what I called out. So I expect the elevator to go up, and it does. I expect the right aileron to go up, and it does. I expect the left to go up, and it does. I expect the rudder to go right and the nose wheel to go right, and it does. I expect the rudder to go left and the nose wheel to go left, and they do. Everything looks good there. Let's bump the throttle and make sure I got the EDF spinning the right way. Yep. Air's definitely coming out of the back. As always, 2 stages of flaps. I've got takeoff flaps and I've got landing flaps. And as customary for my Maidens, I don't use flaps or retractable gear on Maidens. I'm mainly focused on getting the plane up in the air, making sure it'll fly properly, and then taking it home, checking everything out. And then once that's done, then I'll come back, make any corrections that need to be corrected mechanically, and then I'll come back and play with the plane. But I want to check the balance one more time as well. So 95 to 100, or 90 to 100, and I'm right in the middle. Yeah, that looks good. All right. Let's say this is signed off and ready to go. One-click trim. That's a rough trim. Now I'm just going to dial in a little bit more with the trim switch. Woo, that was a lot of movement. I'm going to mid rates, man. The aileron movement on that is really sensitive. Ridiculously quiet for an EDF. I mean, you can barely hear it. And that's a 4-cell battery too. It's sorry guys, this one is a real sensitive plane. I'm not used to my planes being quite this sensitive, but it looks like I've kind of got it stabilized. It dives in a turn. When you roll that wing over, boy, it really goes down. You got to yank and bank on this one a little bit. So, but it flies. Feels good. It doesn't feel tail heavy. Doesn't feel nose heavy. I do have a lot of throttle. Oh man, that axial roll is ridiculously fast. I've probably got about 80% throttle there. Slow that down just a little bit. Boy, this is a very reactive plane. That's all I can say. Very reactive. requires a good pull on the elevator in those turns to keep it level, which is a little unusual. Maybe that's just a function of that wing geometry. There is no stabilizer on this plane, by the way. This is just straight 8-channel receiver. No stabilization support at all. All right, let's just get up a little bit and do a loop or two and then practice some approaches, because nope, that's not going to do a loop, or at least I don't feel like it's going to. Yeah, I'm going to land. Yep, I'm landing. No choice. That's like the battery just quit on me. I'm gonna go out and see what's going on. All right, so the Maiden's wrapped up, and that didn't go quite as expected. I mean, there's no major damage. The landing, I got the landing gear syndrome this week, but the landing gear on one of the, I forget what side it was. I think it was the starboard side, popped off. So I'll just glue that back in and I'll be back in business. So I took a measurement on the battery after the flight, and it was down to 3.2 volts per cell. So I was running at a high power level, and clearly that had something to do with the power on that battery falling off like that. I think what I'm probably going to do is just check the IR on that battery and make sure that battery isn't soft. And then I'll go home, check everything over, put it back on a watt meter, and take a look at the power numbers again, just to make sure it's generating what I think it should generate. I can tell you that the plane itself, definitely not a beginner plane, and because it's very, very reactive, even on middle rates. I'd consider it highly reactive. It seems like the balance was just about right at that 95 millimeter mark, so I'll stick with that for the time being. I hope you guys enjoyed the Maiden and the little build summary I did in the middle. I'll take this back and do a little bit more evaluation work on it, and we'll get it back out and get some more flight footage with it again. That's all I've got for today. If you're not a subscriber, guys, I would definitely appreciate it if you join the channel and by hitting that subscribe button. And if you are a subscriber, please consider talking to your friends and spreading the word a little bit and continue helping the channel grow. Your engagement counts and it matters, and I appreciate it by everybody. All right, take care, guys.